Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation. And we recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial, and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. So I'll ask the clerk for the roll call, please.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is review and revisions and deletion to the agenda. Does anybody got anything they wanted to add or delete from the agendas tonight? If not, got a motion. Be it resolved the City Council approves the agenda as printed. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature tonight?
Mayor Kidd, we do have one disclosure. Mayor Kidd declared a conflict of pecuniary interest related to Section 19, closed session item C, related to the Integrity Commissioner, as he is the subject of an ongoing proceeding related to a decision of the Integrity Commissioner on a conflict of interest complaint report.
Any other conflict of interest at all tonight? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the review and adoption of the council minutes. And I've got a motion be resolved the City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular meeting of council that was held on February the 15th, 2022. Mover and second, Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments on the minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Tonight there is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes, and the item is a potential disposition of land. The applicant is Edward the Valley. The property is a portion of Andrew Street, and the purpose, the applicant owns land adjacent to a part of Andrew Street on an open road allowance and is seeking to acquire the subject property to have contiguous property ownership for the purpose of residential use, outdoor storage accessory to the residential dwelling. And the purpose of the public meeting is to present to council and the public the details related to the proposed disposition of land, being a portion of Andrew Street. And the meeting also serves the purpose, allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to the council making a decision. And I now declare this to be an open public meeting and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the details of the proposed disposition. Logan?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. As summarized, we have received an application from Edward LaValle to purchase a portion of Andrew Street, being a part of a 66-foot road allowance, which equated to about 0.5 of an acre. The applicant owns the adjacent parcels of land in the subject area, being 29 King Street. He currently has a residential home and outdoor storage accessory to the residential dwelling unit, as well as the vacant parcel of land directly to the south. Based on the city's aerial imagery, it does appear that the applicant has items on part of this road allowance for storage. As such, the applicant is seeking to purchase the subject property for contiguous ownership for the purpose of residential use for the continuation of outdoor accessory storage to the residential dwelling. The next slide is a key map of the subject area, noting the applicant's address of 29 King Street, as well as the vacant parcel to the south of it. The blue L-shaped property is the portion of Andrew Street that he is seeking to purchase. For the disposition of land bylaw number 2015, the following sections were referred to. So section 3 is the disposal method. Staff recommend, or following the request, staff recommend a direct disposition to the applicant. For section 4, for the determination of value, it was in consultation with the Corporate Services Committee, staff recommended a sale price of $2,500 plus associated costs. So that includes legal, survey costs, etc. For section 6, related to the public notice, the notice was circulated in the city bulletin. Notice was provided to the abutting neighbor, a neighbor or the neighboring property owner to the north. Notice was also mailed or emailed to utility companies, including Enbridge, Hydro, Eastlink, and Bell. And notice was also emailed to the Ontario Northland. The subject properties adjacent to this road allowance are designated residential neighborhood in the City of Temiskaming Shores official plan and are zoned medium density residential, or R3, in the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw. Related to the accessory buildings for storage, the maximum permitted lot coverage for accessory structures is 15% of the lot area, and in accordance with the provisions of the city's zoning bylaw, there wasn't any concerns noted with respect to this. And the bylaw officer also completed a site visit in the fall of 2021 to view the outdoor storage and found no property standard concerns. Enbridge Gas, Northern Tel, and Hydro One indicated that infrastructure is not located on the subject lands, therefore they have no concerns. There were also no formal comments received as of Friday, February 25th at 3:00 p.m. But following distribution of the council package, we did receive comments from the ONR. So the ONR provided a copy of this map, which outlines essentially an approximate location of a culvert. So the comments submitted by the ONR included that they have a 200-foot, 48-diameter culvert in the vicinity of the subject lands, and it is believed that the outlet of the culvert is on the subject lands. Due to the heavy snowfall currently, they're unable to confirm the culvert's exact location at this time, but if the culvert outlet is on the subject lands, Ontario Northland may like to explore the acquisition of all or part of the subject lands to protect the culvert. The ONR provided, of course, the illustrative map shown to council to identify the approximate location of the culvert. If the municipality does decide to sell the property to the adjacent landowner, Ontario Northland would require an easement for the culvert to be registered prior to the transfer, and requesting that the easement would provide for the existing culvert the ability for Ontario Northland to enter onto the property to inspect, maintain, and repair or replace the culvert, prohibit anything being placed or built in proximity to the outlet of the culvert, and to prohibit the alteration of the existing watercourse. ONR further recommended that two conditions for the municipality's consideration regarding the sale if it occurs with the adjacent landowner. One being a fence to be constructed by the owner on the owner's property to delineate the west boundary of the subject property and the ONR's right-of-way, and then the removal of the owner's property from the ONR adjoining lands if that's found to be the case. The application and information was also circulated to staff. Staff indicated that there was no concerns and are supportive of the request. Following the public meeting, and of course conditional on public output, the next steps would include ordering a survey to legally describe the portion of the subject road allowance, an administrative report recommending a purchase and sale agreement, adoption of a stop up and close bylaw for the portion of the road allowance, and a deeming bylaw. Thank you.
Just a minute, I'll get you. Just a minute. First of all, if there are members of the public that do want to speak to this issue, there's two ways to do this. We'll either put your questions into the chat box, and we'll get those questions read out from the chat box. And the other possibility is if you're present here tonight, you can come up to the podium, give your name and address, and you can make your comments. So if you want to make comments at this point, go ahead. So, sure, yeah. You just state your name and address for the record. And
yeah, I got everything here. Worked hard with a mask because I get all fogged up.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good to meet with you. I'm Beverly Flynn, sole owner of 35 King Street, North Cobalt, Ontario, adjacent to 29 King Street, North Cobalt. I am a senior citizen and a naturalist and moved to 35 King for the beauty and peace and quiet in a lovely city of Temiskaming Shores. I bought my property, my residential property, virtually March 10th, 2021, as Ontario was in COVID lockdown, so I couldn't come up and see it. At the time of closure, my lawyer, Julie Richard, assured me that the property behind me was municipal. The pictures posted on both Realtor.ca and Google Maps had a beautiful standing forest behind both 29 and 35 King Street, North Cobalt. I was shocked upon closing May 12, 2021, when I saw the gruesome junkyard behind my property. The owner, Ed LaValle, of 29 King Street, had unlawfully trespassed and completely bulldozed and chainsawed down the forest behind both 35 and 29 King Street. Then he had made a junkyard of 3 rotting cars, piles of rusting metal, old 70s recreational trailers, multiple oil drums, and I don't know what's actually in them. There might be a lot of toxic things in them. And a very large rusting backhoe parked right on the periphery of my backyard. I approached him civilly to remove everything, and eventually and reluctantly, he moved most everything out. In the process, he dug a huge hole in a lot on the municipal lot of 0305 behind my place and buried a lot of junk and rusting metal instead of recycling and bringing it to the dump. Then he took the pile of good earth that he dug out and topped up his ground behind his property. Then he covered all the good earth with loads of gravel right back close to the railway tracks and graded for hours on end through the summer, causing dust and noise to make residential neighbors of our quiet and well-kept community. Then he placed 5 of his 6 old 70s trailers, recreational trailers, along the periphery of my property, encroaching on the municipal lot 0509. This is what I had to look at from my back deck most of the summer, and behind me was a wasteland instead of a forest, which I thought was there when I bought the property. I have pictures on my cell phones of all of this. Currently, the back of his property, 0168, municipal land and probably ONR land, is a junk parking town yard covered in gravel. This is what is there. I have a list of everything. List of machinery and vehicles: large rusting backhoe, large rusting bulldozer, 3 rotting cars in a pile, grading attachment, 6 old 70s recreational trailers, 2 boats on a metal rack, metal flatbed trailer with ramp, old rusting flatbed truck with a large plow, 1 small car not being used, ATVs, truck, snowmobile. List of other junk. Still behind my property, multiple oil drums, and they may have toxic liquids in them, I have no idea. Assorted metal objects. There's still a pile of rusting metal bulldozed into the bush that is left on the lot 0305, which he took the whole forest down. List of buildings: existing overly large garage, double garage, 4+ sheds across the back towards the creek, Mill Creek. Another double garage built in the summer of 2021. And I don't think he had a permit to build it, and I don't know if it's even on his land. Polyethylene garage, another old wooden shed. An oversized yellow shed is still on the municipal property behind my property. Black teepee-type shelter shed is still behind the yellow shed on municipal property. There is an ongoing investigation with the bylaw and property standards with 29 King Street, which began November 16th, 2021. With the Temiskaming Shores municipality. I also plan to pursue regreening and cleaning up of this area with Environment Climate Change Canada, the Municipality of Temiskaming Shores, MPP John Vantroff, Ministry of Ontario Municipal Affairs. The owner, Ed LaValle of 29 King Street, has shown no respect for his neighbors and destroyed nature, the environment, as well as the value of my property. He paved paradise and put up a parking lot. I am definitely totally against you selling this municipal land known as portion of Andrew Street to the applicant of 29 King Street, parcel 11452 SST, North Cobalt. Thank you for giving me a voice in this matter. I rest my case. Thank you very much. I also want to say I have amazing moral support from my neighbors. We are all in residential property, and he has destroyed our past summer. He built this new building, and I don't think he even had a permit, and he hammered and hammered all summer, and he didn't care. So I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other members of the public here tonight that would like to speak to this matter as well? Is there anything on the chat box at all, Shelley? Questions from council? Comments? So, Councillor Jelly.
I guess my only question would be if our bylaw officer is involved in this. I think I'd like to know the status of what's going on before a decision is made.
I know they've been there. I know there's the lot coverage for the buildings that are there are not excessive over what our bylaw entails as far as lot coverage. So whether some of the properties are actually on his own property or whether they're on municipal land, I think that would have to be decided upon. I don't know whether he's listening in tonight or not, but we could certainly find out. Councillor Jelly?
Yes, I'm kind of concerned. The lady that spoke had quite a list of things that are built up in the backyard, and I do believe that we have a bylaw or some bylaws that would cover that type of thing. I just think there should be more investigation before we make a decision.
Okay. Councillor MacArthur?
Yes, I would like a detailed report to come to the PPP at our next meeting if possible.
Other comments, questions? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. My concern is with if there is any buildings actually being built on it. But my biggest concern is whether or not there was any grading done, because that backs onto ONR drainage property rights. And with the creek right there, you can't go regrading that without M&R approval. So the city might be out in the hook here, so I think we should look into all that.
I believe Paul Lajeunesse is on the line as well. Paul, have you inspected the site at all?
Mayor, no, we have not. Due to the heavy snowfall, we haven't been able to see any conditions out there. We'll likely have somebody in the first spring go out there and have a look at the conditions out there. Especially hearing that there's been some grading work, like Councilman Whalen suggested there, it could be a concern for us if we've done any changes or altered the water course there.
Okay. So it may be wise to do the staff report and get that back to our next PPP meeting and maybe give time for the spring thaw to happen here as well and get the time for the ONR to actually go in and have a look at the grading level in there and see how the water is actually flowing from that culvert coming across there. So that's the direction from council to do a little more of a staff report. And Logan's.
I believe Logan has a number of resolutions, and that was one of them. If you guys wanted further a report or further investigations.
So, okay. So I've got them. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. Can anybody else offer on that property? Could I make an offer on that property?
I guess I'll let the clerk answer that question.
I'll have to review bylaw 2015-160 a little bit more carefully, but with respect to road allowances, they've typically been sold to adjoining adjoining landowners.
Okay.
I'll have to review the provisions of the disposition bylaw 2015-160 to say for certain, but traditionally the road allowances have been sold to neighboring landowners.
Because it doesn't own onto the highway, right? Andrew Street?
It does. The owner owns the lands between Andrew Street, so he owns a vacant property to the south as well as the property to the north.
So Logan, could you bring that map up and I can explain it maybe? So the issue, what Logan I think is saying is that, do you have the one, the O&R, so this kind of shows Mr. LaValle owns the land south of Andrew Street, and he owns the property north of Andrew Street, so that by selling the Andrew Street to anybody else would landlock Mr. LaValle's land to the south. In what Logan was saying, in many cases where there's a laneway or road allowance between two property owners, we will often offer one half of the road allowance to the one neighbor and one half to the other for land addition purposes. But we'd have to investigate that a little further. My suspicion is it would landlock Mr. LaValle's south portion of his land from the north part of the land that he owns. And I don't believe, we'd have to look into it, but I don't believe there is road access to that southern land that he owns.
Because there must be more of Andrew Street that goes further, but you haven't had it for sale, right?
So if you look, so that, you see how Andrew Street has that very strange kitty corner thing? Oh, yeah. So Logan, if you go back to the aerial, so do you see behind your place and Denise's place, that land, so there's a large chunk that's municipal, where Logan's got the arrow, but the other land where the road allowance would be, that's owned by O&R. Now, historically, the original train station for North Cobalt was in there, as well as the streetcar barns were located off there. So I think the O&R had a fairly large allowance because there was a spur line. You can actually see in some of the other aerial photos, you can see the spur line that used to go into the streetcar barns. And that was more towards Lakeview, near the end of Lakeview. And so I believe that section of Andrew Street was sold to the O&R many, many years ago. Yeah.
I just have to tell you the story, but I went to clean up behind my place because there was shards of metal and glass and everything. It was very dangerous, for anybody to walk back there. So I started cleaning up and pulling trees out of the ground and get bulldozed into the ground. And I found an old sign from the North Cobalt station.
Okay.
And it was, I forget what it's called, it was a cobalt blue, actually, and white enamel sign. And this company that was part of the National Railway used to help the immigrants with their finances when they came over. There was no banks then. And it was a beautiful sign, and I saw part of it, and he had bulldozed it into the ground instead of taking it to the museum. And I was just, I love history, and I love the land, and he destroyed it. I still have it. And it's a shame, museum instead of bulldozed it into the ground. I just wanted to tell people that. It was a shame.
So it is something we can investigate, though, in the report back to council. We'll just verify those road allowances and the accesses, and then we can give you a more fulsome report on that, too.
Okay. So I've got a motion. I'll read it here. Be it resolved that the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby acknowledges the presentation in regard to the potential disposition of land from the municipal clerk, and the Council directs staff to prepare an administrative report related to the potential disposition of land with Edward LaValle for a portion of Andrew Street to outline the comments received at the public meeting we held on March the 1st, 2022, and to provide options available to Council for consideration at the March 15th, 2022 regular meeting, and also that we can have this report brought out to the PPP committee as well in the next PPP meeting. So, you know, comment, Chris, or first, or so.
I just told Mr. LaValle's there, but just on the date, the PPP doesn't meet till the 16th, so it would have to go to the April meeting. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, Mr. LaValle, you want to come to the podium and.
Well, I'm Edward LaValle. Heard a lot of lies tonight. That stuff I bulldozed, I didn't bulldoze. That stuff left over from the streetcar plant that was there, and that's the only part I didn't clean up. All the way along there, I cleaned up, and I took loads and loads of steel and garbage to the dump. And I didn't bulldoze anything in there other than stumps and wood. So complete lies. What she's picking in is left over from the 50s when they had the streetcar there. If you look at the front of my yard, it's clean as could be. I'm not a dirty person. So I've been cleaning up for years back there. Even my yard was full of steel and glass and everything else. And I've been cleaning up for 30 years, trying to make it nice, and then I have to sit here and listen to this lies that is just horrible. Where I bulldozed was a big hole. I filled that all in on my own the year before she moved. And she told me to move the stuff, so I took my earth and put it back behind my yard where the hole was to put my stuff there. And I moved it, and I leveled it all out nice. I didn't do any destroying. The trees were falling down. They're dying, falling down, landing on my property. Broke window trailers. My grandson had a truck there, fell on the cab of the truck, smashed it. We had to destroy the truck. So me sitting here for 30 years cleaning up is pretty hard to take. And I'm so upset right now.
Well, that's why we have these public meetings, so we can hear both sides.
Good. That's good.
Thank you, sir.
So I didn't do any damage, and those trees are bamboozle. You cut them down, 5 more grow up, and they're all dying, falling over. And the lady next door, the trees were bent right over, uprooted. And somebody knows about that, and she was scared to cut her grass into there. So I cut my part, the trees that were falling on my property, of my equipment, and I says, I'll cut those ones down that are unsafe and plant a nice row of trees. And I did that. I planted a spruce, a poplar, a spruce, and a poplar. And this new neighbor come and dug all the poplars up, just left the spruce after me planting them. I don't know. You guys make your own decision.
Thank you, sir.
Horrible.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments, sir. So everybody's heard the motion. Do we have a mover? Councilor Whalen. Second by Councilor Ferrier. All in favor of this motion or getting a report back? Thank you very much, ma'am. So, and thanks everybody for attending the public meeting. That was very enlightening. I now declare this public meeting to be closed, and the council will give due consideration at this later date, probably in April sometime there. So that's great. I'll give time to the owner to go ahead and have a look at what's happening with that property as well there. So, okay, moving on to item number 8, the first question and answer period. Anything on the chat box? Did I miss something? No. Okay. So any members of the public question for council tonight on any other issue? If not, we have a presentation with Ines, I might not be pronouncing that correctly, Mackey, the president of the Rotary Club, and she's making a presentation. So the podium is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Inez, and I'm here on behalf of the Rotary Club of Temiskaming Shores and area. Once a year, I visit City Hall, and I come bearing gifts. The Rotary Club has pledged $100,000 to the construction of the Rotary splash pad along the New Liskeard waterfront. If you visited the spur line this summer, you would have noticed busy beaches and packed playgrounds, and you would have also noticed a little bit of construction at the site of the future New Liskeard splash pad. We have done an extensive amount of site prep. We have a design, we have materials, and we have builders ready to go. We are optimistic that our project will reach completion in 2022, and we are excited to see children enjoying the splash pad this summer. We would like to thank you for your continued support, encouragement, and enthusiasm for this project. And most importantly, we would like to support our community for continuing to support we would like to thank our community for continuing to support our fundraising efforts. So without further delay, I would like to present to you with our annual $10,000 donation. Yeah.
No, we are so fortunate to have the Rotary Club as a sponsor for the splash pad. It's going to be a great asset for the beach area there, and we've got a lot of people starting to come back to the playground and coming back to use the beach. We went through a number of years there where people stayed away from the beaches for a long time, and now those people are coming back, and this splash pad's even going to attract even more. So I know Matt's going to stay on top of that and make sure it gets constructed as soon as possible. So thank you very much. So. Item number 10 is the communications, and 10A is a letter from the Township of Limerick regarding a resolution regarding the gypsy moth spraying. That's received on February the 14th for information. 10B is a letter from myself regarding the letter that was sent to Scotiabank regarding the intention to close the Hillbury branch, and that was received on February the 17th for information. 10C is a letter from Penny Durant, the Pantry Bulk Food Store. It's a letter of resignation from the New Liskeard Business Improvement Area, the Board of Management, and that was received on February the 9th. And there's a bylaw presented under Section 16 tonight. 10D is the financial reports from the Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority for October 2021, November 2021, and December 2021, and January as well, received for information. 10E is also from the Temiskaming Regional Airport regarding the manager's reports for October, November, and December of 2021, and also January 2022. That's received for information. 10F is a letter from Melissa Laporte, Executive Director, Curator of the Temiskaming Art Gallery and Open Studio Libre. Permission for a road closure for the Hillbury Block Party. That's set up, hopefully going to be set up for August the 20th, 2022, and that's received on February the 23rd, and being referred to the Manager of Transportation Services and the Economic Development Officer. 10G is a letter from the Temiskaming Foundation regarding the 2001 Vital Signs Report, and that's received for information. It's out in the public there. A lot of people have access to that now. 10H is a letter from Lori McDonald, the Director of Corporate Services and the Clerk, regarding the hospital capital funding, and that's received on February the 24th for information as well. So that's all the correspondence. I got a motion be resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A through 10H according to the agenda references. Mover and seconder, Councillor MacArthur. Second, Councillor Foley. Any comments? Yes, sir. Councillor MacArthur.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to thank you for writing that letter to Scotiabank. I've had a few calls, not happy. A big corporation like that pulling out of Haileybury, it hurts our area. And all I have to say is it would have been nice to see any time the size of a corporation like this could have maybe even just wrote a nice letter in the Temiskaming Speaker and explained why, but it just looks like it happened pretty fast. And I know business is tough, but it is a loss. And Haileybury, they were supporting that bank.
Yeah, I also met with Hugo Rive yesterday, I guess, again, and I gave him information that will allow individuals to write, forget the agency, but they can actually request that Scotiabank hold a town hall meeting with the public. So that's something, he has that information now that he may be checking with the business owners and a lot of the public there to see whether they're interested in having a town hall meeting and then getting some answers and questions answered from Scotiabank. So I sort of left that with Hugo as well there. So, any other, Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just quickly, I want to thank the Temiskaming Foundation for their 2021 Vital Signs report. I took part in an announcement about a week and a half ago with Minister Calandra for 200 long-term care beds across the north. But if you look at the information in this report, we need more than that right here in Temiskaming. So I'd encourage every municipality in the district to use this as a guiding tool for as we move forward. So thanks again to the Temiskaming Foundation.
I think James has put that on the agenda for our next Economic Development Corporation as well, so we'll just discuss that report there as well. So, any other comments, direction?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just item C with Penny Durant resigning from the BIA. I just wanted to thank Penny for all her contributions to the BIA and wish her all the best.
Thank you, sir. If not, any other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor of this motion? That would be carried. Item number 11 is the Committees of Council, the Community and Regional. Like a motion be resolved, the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Liskeard Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting held on January the 17th, 2022. B is the minutes of the Earlton Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority meeting held on November the 18th, 2021. And C is the minutes of the Temiskaming Shores Public Library Board meeting held on January the 26th, 2022. We're moving a second for that motion. Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Whalen. Any comments on those three sets of minutes? All in favor? That would be carried. There's no committees of council of the internal departments tonight. Reports by members of council. So, does Councillor Jelly or Councillor Whalen wants to speak to the meeting they had on Friday night with the fire chiefs? Is that something we wanted to?
I will briefly, Your Worship, but I will be introducing a motion, notice of motion at the next item on our agenda. Councillor Whalen and I did attend the meeting. It was very well attended by all the fire chiefs in the north. It is a great concern, the fire certification. So I think you'll see by the draft motion I have that it's going to need a little more attention from this council. Thank you.
Other reports by members of council? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I don't have a report, more of a question, I guess, for our Recreation Committee or Recreation Department. Now that the province has lifted some of their mandates, are we going to come up with a consistent message? I've been asked a few times already today about what we're doing in different facilities, but I didn't want to say anything and have somebody else say something else, so we should draft up where we're at and where we're going for the public so they can follow along.
There is a motion presented tonight. There's a couple different options is what we want to do with the Pool Fitness Center and the arenas. So
That's great, because my internet was down all day, and I just reading the packets on my way down here.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll deal with that a little bit later here. So any other reports? Councillor Foley?
Yeah, just an update. We, DSAB, we passed our budget on February 15th with a 2.62% increase to the municipalities, which for Temiskaming Shores means a 2.65 increase this year. I apologize. I know the previous chair had a 0% increase, but unfortunately this year we had to raise it up a little bit.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for stepping in as the Vice Chair of DSAB as well. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Notice of motions. Councillor Jelly.
If I can, Your Worship, I'll just lower my mask a bit because my glasses also fog up. Whereas the Ministry of the Solicitor General posted a draft regulation under the Fire Protection Prevention Act 1997 concerning mandatory firefighter certification on January 28, 2022 with a 30-day comment period. And whereas the Ministry has stated the goal of the regulation is to develop a standardized approach to firefighter training, which protects firefighters and increases public safety while providing flexibility for local needs and service levels of municipalities across Ontario. And whereas the Ministry has also stated that the Office of the Fire Marshal will offer certification to the minimum standard at no charge. And whereas standardized firefighter training already exists in municipal fire services across Ontario, and whereas the real outcome of the proposed regulation is the addition of unnecessary testing that will impact the recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters in the rural and northern communities. And whereas neither the Ministry of the Solicitor General nor the Office of the Fire Marshal have provided details or a plan on how they are going to support municipalities achieve compliance with the proposed regulation. And whereas the proposed regulation is another form of downloading from the province onto small, rural, and northern municipalities, as the Office of the Fire Marshal should already be responsible to support and evaluate individual fire departments and their training requirements through the local fire protection advisors. And whereas the Ministry has provided insufficient time for meaningful consultation with all of the stakeholders affected by the proposed regulation. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby petitions the Ministry of the Solicitor General 1, to extend the consultation period by 2 months to April 30th, 2022, and consider an accreditation program delivered through the Office of the Fire Marshal instead of an unnecessary testing program that has not achieved the stated goal of protecting firefighters and increasing public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I know Chris and I and Steve and Danny all attended that webinar conference call anyways, and there wasn't much information provided during that meeting, and they seem to be really trying to push this all through. So I think we definitely have to start a bit of a fight here on behalf of the fire departments. Councillor Jelly?
I think the bottom line in all of this, Your Worship, if this goes through, it's going to kill a lot of our small fire departments throughout Ontario, not just in Northern Ontario. There's many facets to training and having equipment to train and what have you, and it's just going to be very onerous. It's going to be onerous on us, and some small departments are going to either disappear or be mandated to go in over their head in expenses. It needs our attention. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll see what develops over the next 2 weeks, and we'll bring this motion back on March the 15th. We may have to amend it between now and then, but we'll see what happens. So, okay. Any other notice of motions? If not, we'll move into the new business. 15A is Memo 007, 2022 CS, 2022 municipal and school board elections key dates. And I got a motion to be resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledge receipt of Memo 007, 2022 CS, titled the 2022 municipal and school board elections key dates for information purposes. So, mover and seconder, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments, Chris?
Just one quick, that if you did notice in there, one of the changes that has not typically, municipal councils assume office on December 1st. So the legislative changes moved that up to November 15th for this election period. So we will be looking at bringing forward an amendment to our procedural bylaw, because our procedural bylaw deals with December start of council versus November. So just to let you know, you will see that coming up sometime in the near future.
Okay. Any questions on this? All in favor? That is carried. 15B is Memo 008, 2022 CS, Zach's Crib Organization for the funding sponsorship request. I think a motion be resolved that council for the city of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Memo 008, 2022 CS, and the council for the city of Temiskaming Stores approves the request from Zach's Crib Organization and agrees to sponsor their funding application to the Frog's Breath Foundation for their building renovation and facility opening. So we're moving to seconder. Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15C is Memo 009, 2022 CS, the deeming bylaw for Rivard on behalf of Simone at 440 Arnold Drive and the Plan M128NB, the lots 74 and 72, parcel 23461 SST and part of 23603 SST. And the motion reads, whereas the owners of 440 Arnold Drive in Hillsbury would like to merge lots on title through the adoption of a deeming bylaw in compliance with the Planning Act in order to create one property with one roll number, and whereas the owners have acknowledged that registration of the pending deeming bylaw on title will be at their expense, now therefore be resolved that council for the city of Temiskaming Stores hereby direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to deem Plan M128NB, lot 74, 72, and parcel 23461 SST, PT and 23603 SST to no longer be lots on a plan of subdivision, and further the council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary deeming bylaw for consideration at the March 1st, 2022 regular council meeting later tonight. So we're moving aside to Councillor Whaler, second by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15D is Administrative Report CS 009, 2022, the zoning by amendment, ZBA 2022-01, regarding 118072 Sales Barn Road. And the motion reads, be it resolved, the council for the city of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 009, 2022. The council agrees to amend the provisions of the city of Temiskaming Stores zoning bylaw 2017-154 to permit the zone change from prime agricultural A1 to prime agricultural exception 10, it's A1-10, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend the city of Temiskaming Stores zoning bylaw 2017-154 for consideration at the March 1st, 2022 regular council meeting later tonight as well. So we're moving second, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15E is Administrative Report CS 010-2022, the Hillsbury Family Health Team Lease Agreement. And I got a motion to be resolved that council for the city of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 010-2022, that council directs staff to increase the rental rates for the use of the office space at the Hillsbury Family Health Team by 2% for 2022, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a one-year lease agreement with the Hillsbury Family Health Team for the use of the office space at the Hillsbury Medical Center. So we're moving and seconder for that motion. Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That would be carried. 15F is Administrative Report CS 011-2022, the Alternative Voting System Services, and it's regarding the 2022 municipal and school board elections. And the motion reads, be it resolved that council for the city of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 011-2022, that council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to authorize the use of a hybrid system using vote tabulators for the 2022 municipal election and the use of internet and telephone voting for the 2022 municipal and school board elections. And the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter an agreement with IntelliVote Systems Incorporated for the internet and telephone voting system for the 2022 municipal and school board elections at an estimated cost of $20,965 plus applicable taxes, depending on the actual final election count for the 2022 municipal and school board election, for consideration at tonight's March 1st regular council meeting. And the council approves an increase to the municipal elections budget from $30,000 to $40,000. Mover and seconder, Councillor Foley, second by Councillor Ferrier. Any comments? Should be interesting getting into the internet and telephone voting for first time. So, all in favor of this motion? That is carried. 15G is Memo 003, 2022 PW, the amendment to bylaw 2019-065 for the Grant Fuels Agreement for the supply and delivery of petroleum fuels for a one-year extension. And the motion reads, be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Memo 003, 2022 PW, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-065, which was to enter into a 3-year agreement with Grant Fuels for the supply of petroleum fuels for the City of Twisting Stores, and now to extend the contract term for a period of 1 year until March 31st, 2023, in accordance with the Section 5 of the contract extension of the said bylaw for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So, mover and seconder, Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15H is Memo 004, 2022 PW, the amendment to the bylaw 2022-019 for the EXP agreement for the Nilisquard waste disposal site expansion. And the motion reads, be it resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Memo 004, 2022 PW, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-019 to enter into an agreement with EXP Services for engineering services related to the expansion of the Nilisquard waste disposal site to include an Appendix 2 to Schedule A of for the addition of EXP Services Incorporated, their general terms and conditions for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. Moving to second to that motion, Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15I, Administrative Report PW 006, 2022, the annual water reports. And I motion be resolved, the council for the City of Twisting Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 006, 2022, more specifically Appendix 1 and 2, being the 2021 annual reports for the water systems within the municipality in accordance with Schedule 22 of the Ontario Regulation 170/03, being a regulation under the Safe Drinking Water Act. The council hereby directs staff to place the 2021 annual reports in the water systems binders located at the municipal office at 325 Far Drive and post on the municipal website, and also to place an ad in the community bulletin and the city's Facebook page notifying the public of the availability of these reports for public review. And the council further directs staff to forward a copy of Administrative Report PW 006 2022 to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Safe Water Drinking Branch in North Bay for their records. So we're going to move in a seconder, Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? Steve's here to answer all your questions. All in favor? That is carried. 15J, Administrative Report RS 004, 2022, Zubik's Skills Lease Agreement. I got a motion be resolved, the council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 004, 2022. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Zubik Skills Limited for the use of the Shelley Herbert Shea Memorial Arena, the dry floor, from May 1st, 2022 through to July 17th, 2022 for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So we're moving second to Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15K, Administrative Report RS 005, 2022, the Buck Park Operations Agreement. And I got a motion be resolved the council for the City of Twisting Stars acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 005, 2022. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaws to confirm the 2022 Buck Park Operations Agreement for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So, moved by Councilor MacArthur, seconded by Councilor Foley. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. And for Danny, 15L, Administrative Report RS 006, 2022, the March 1st, 2022, the public health measures. And I got a motion be resolved the council for the City of Twisting Stars acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 006, 2022. The council directs staff to continue to require proof of vaccination to enter the Waterfront Pool Fitness Center until at least April the 30th, 2022. The council directs staff to no longer require the public to provide proof of vaccination to enter municipal halls. And then some other options, the council directs staff to continue to require proof of vaccination to enter the municipal arenas until at least April the 22nd. Or the council directs staff to no longer require the public to provide proof of vaccination to enter municipal arenas. And any other variation the council would like to propose tonight. So, Councilor Jelly.
I would propose moving this motion with the second, the or part of it. Council directs staff to no longer require public to provide proof for municipal arenas.
Okay. You're still in favor of doing that at the Pool Fitness Center? Or do you want to look at removing both Pool Fitness Center and the arenas?
The or simply states municipal arenas. It doesn't say anything about the Pool Fitness Center. It's dealt with in another part, unless you consider that an arena. I believe the Pool Fitness Center, yes, should continue, but not at the arena.
I think the reason we were looking at the Pool Fitness Center separately because we do have staff there and they can automatically do that without increasing and hiring any additional staff. So that's a different option, but we're open for discussion. Councillor Ferrier.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I do agree with Councillor Jelly's recommendation with regards to the arena as well as our rental facilities. My question is, with the Pool Fitness Center, are we getting input from the health unit? Like this is a public health issue that we've been addressing. And I look at the province has lifted the restrictions. They're talking about lifting the mask mandate after the March break. And, I'm just trying to understand on what basis are we going to go different from what's happening with the province. Have we, being the chair of the health unit, Carmen, maybe you could speak to that?
Well, I know the Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province has given that advice to the Premier, and the Premier has decided to open things up and not require proof of vaccination as of today. So, that's provincial-wide. So I'm assuming he's had consultation with the other 45 medical officers of health throughout the province to develop that decision there with the Premier. So I don't know. I'm not hearing anything different from our acting medical officer of health to oppose what the Premier is doing. So.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm not in favor of keeping the pool fitness center, under those restrictions, up until at least the end of April, because I don't think that there's any health support that says we should be doing that. So I think we should be opening everything up. Just my recommendation. Thank you.
We're getting very few cases in the hospital at this time, which is very good. Children have gone back to school and everything else there, and so everybody's in person at the schools at this point where we're not getting that much transmission, and most of the cases I'm hearing about are not serious. So, maybe the Premier is doing the right thing, and who are we to oppose them? I don't know, but I'll leave it up for some more discussion. Councillor MacArthur.
Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion that most people want to move on and get by this COVID-19. Last week, as far as I was concerned, I thought that maybe we should continue to ask for identification at the door of the arena for for folks that didn't get vaccinated. But then when the Premier came out and said that we were lifting the identification March 1st, I had to, as a board member of the health unit, I feel that we have been listening to the scientists and health folks from day one. And Mr. Ford one day was given a green light, and the next day he was given a red light. And the way I look at it, I think the green light is on right now, and because of the health unit and the government of Ontario listening to the doctors and the scientists, I would have to reverse my decision from last week and say that I feel that folks should be let in these institutions, arenas, pool, fitness center without identification or without the QR code.
Other comments? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I want to say what a wonderful resolution. I wish I would have thought of it. That aside, I agree that we need a consistent message every time we put it out there. So I would agree that we follow what the province is putting forward. Obviously, we haven't heard any opposition from any of the medical officers of health for each of the health units. So if they're all singing the same song, then I think we should be as well. So I don't think we should be asking for a proof of vaccination.
Chris?
Not to enter the debate, but if you are, based on the comments, if you are going that way, I'd offer a friendly amendment to go from municipal arenas to municipal facilities. The reason too, I know in speaking with our library CEO, the library board was sort of waiting as well to see what the city's position was. Although the library is an essential service, so going in to get books and that, you don't require proof of vaccination. They were requiring proof of vaccination for use of the conference room facility and boardroom facilities and for some of their programming.
So Councillor Jelly made the motion, but you want to amend that motion to take out the line for the Pool Fitness Center?
I will, Your Worship.
And just add, we'll just start with the be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming stores acknowledged receipt of Administrative Report RS 006 2022, and that Council directs staff to no longer require the public to provide proof of vaccination to enter municipal facilities. That's very simple. Councillor Jelly?
Can I ask one question before we move that? I understand that if I read it correctly, Matt, you can probably tell me NOHA are still requiring proof of vaccination from their players, referees, timekeepers, such like?
So the Northern Ontario Hockey Association has communicated to me that they are not changing their proof of vaccination policy at this point in time. They had a recent meeting at the end of February, and it was not an item that they wanted to discuss at that time.
Councillor Jelly?
I just wondered, does that put any onus on us for checkers at the door, or are they on their own for that?
So they have their own system set up whereby all the players registered have to provide their proof of vaccination through their association to be verified and kept on file.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, the only comment I'll make with regards to the NOHA, so for them to coach for the season, all of this stuff was all handled a long time ago. So you can't get any new coaches, you can't get any new players, and you can't get any new officials, now that the year is done. So the next registration period is really for next season. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Jelly?
I agree with you, but nothing is foolproof. I just wanted to make sure there was no onus put on us should somebody show up to play hockey and not be vaccinated.
Okay. So the motion we're voting on now is be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming stores acknowledged receipt of Administrative Report RS 006 2022, and that Council directs staff to no longer require the public to provide proof of vaccination to enter municipal facilities. That's the motion, Councillor Jelly. And seconder for that motion, Councillor Ferrier. So, any last discussion? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. So, okay, moving on to the bylaws. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-037, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-018, the committee appointments for the New Liskeard Business Improvement Area Board of Management. Bylaw 2022-038, being a bylaw to designate any plan of subdivision or part thereof that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed as not a registered plan of subdivision for 440 Arnold Drive. Bylaw 2022-039, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-154 to rezone 118072 Sales Barn Road from Prime Agricultural A1 zone to the Prime Agricultural Exception 10 to permit a reduced lot area and a reduced interior side setback. Bylaw 2022-040, being a bylaw to authorize a lease agreement with the Hillary Family Health Team for the rental of space at the Hillary Medical Center. Bylaw 2022-041, being a bylaw to authorize the use of a hybrid election system using vote tabulators and the use of internet and telephone voting for the 2022 municipal and school board elections. Bylaw 2022-042, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with IntelliVote Systems Incorporated for internet and telephone voting services, e-voting for the 2022 municipal and school board elections. Bylaw 2022-043, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-065, the agreement for Grant Fuels Incorporated for the supply of petroleum fuels for the city of Temiskaming Shores for the 1-year extension. Bylaw 2022-044, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-019, the agreement with EXP Services Incorporated for the engineering services related to the expansion of the New Liskeard waste disposal site. Bylaw 2022-045, being a bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with Zubik Skills Limited for the Shelley Herbert Shea Memorial Arena, the dry floor surface, from May the 1st, 2022 through to July the 17th, 2022. And lastly, bylaw 2022-046, being a bylaw to enter in an agreement with Sylvain Gelino for the operation of the Buck Park Campground for the 2022 operating season. These bylaws be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor LaFerrier. All in favor? That is carried. And a motion be resolved that bylaws 2022-037, 038, 039, 040, 041, 042, 043, 044, 045, and 46 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. So moved by Councillor Jelly, signed by Councillor Foley. Any last comments before we vote on it? All in favor? That is carried. Next scheduled meeting, the next meeting is set up for Tuesday, March the 15th at 6 p.m. and subsequent to that, the April 5th meeting is after that. So we reach the second question and answer period. Any questions on the chat box? Any questions from council? Yes, Councillor MacArthur.
Yes, through you, Mayor Kidd, I must address an editorial in last week's Weekender entitled Accountability and Transparency. I believe in freedom of speech, and that's one thing, but presenting misleading details must be brought forward to our taxpayers. The writer is correct in comments by Councillor Ferrier about bringing up the purchasing policy for this event, and also is correct that elected officials must be transparent about dollars spent on purchases. However, the writer doesn't mention that the company that had been successful in promoting this great business event in Toronto and Vancouver for several years, and now for another 4 years, has never been challenged by any other marketing company in a quotation request, and that FedNor is very satisfied with the job that these people do on the event, as stated by James Franks. He should know. He's been there pretty well from day one. That was before we voted. And the fact that not one dime is spent by our local taxpayers was not stated in the editorial, or did state not state, that over $800,000 was spent by FedNor for this event. The only cost to our taxpayers are expenses for James and a couple of councillors to travel to the event, which has already passed our annual budget. I want this known tonight because 4 of us that voted for this motion we were not trying to hide something from our taxpayers. And I've been around for 16 years, and I've never been any part of anything under the table or misleading to our taxpayers. If you're going to write something, write it, but get all the facts before it's printed. I just wanted to get that cleared off my chest. I'm only speaking for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No, I don't think this council ever takes for granted our purchasing policy. I mean, there's usually a pretty good reason why we sole search and sole source, I should say, some of the contracts that we do issue there, and there's good reasons why we do that. So a lot of it does save us a lot of money, and a lot of it's just the continuity of great service that we've had as well. So, any other questions for council tonight? Any other questions from the public, staff? If not, we've got a motion. Be resolved that council agrees to convene in closed session at 7:20 to discuss the following matters. A, the adoption of the February 1st, 2021 closed session minutes. B, under section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001, the labor relations or employee negotiations regarding an organizational chart. And C, under section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act 2001, litigation or potential litigation regarding the Integrity Commissioner investigation. So that's what closed session is going to be about. So we need a mover and a seconder for that motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Foley. All in favor? We are adjourned for the next 10 minutes, and we'll carry on in the closed session. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank everybody online as well. So we will see you at the next council meeting.